Welcome to the Australian Weight Loss Surgery Podcast, where every 2 weeks we explore all the aspects of the weight loss surgery journey. You'll hear from a range of experts, including bariatric surgeons, psychologists, patients, and dietitians, sharing up-to-date informative advice to help fast-track your long-term weight loss success.
Welcome everyone to the Australian Weight Loss Surgery Podcast. I'm Jackie Lewis, and today I have the company of Alita Cobb, bariatric patient. Welcome, Alita. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. Thanks so much for having me on.
My pleasure. My pleasure. It must be weird to be on the other end of the interview stick, as it were.
It's quite nerve-wracking, actually. I'm used to asking the questions, not answering them.
It's a good experience to, sensitize yourself for what you're doing to others, I suppose, isn't it?
I'm nervous, and I tell people all the time, don't be nervous. It's quite nerve-wracking.
But I'm like, it'll be easy. Just answer a few questions and off we go. It's easy. So we're going to just talk about you today and your story overall, and just kind of sharing your successes and things that you found along the way in the bariatric journey, which is, we're really grateful for you doing that, because we know that it has been quite a journey and quite a success. So it's always good to share those sides of things as well. So I was just going to say, you also work in the bariatric realm. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Well, it's actually really quite recent, to be honest. I've only been working there for probably about a year and a half now. It's something that I haven't made too public over the time either, because I don't want people to think that I am being quite biased and that sort of thing. But essentially, I have a background in social media and marketing, and I was working for a very small firm, and unfortunately, I got made redundant about a year and a half ago, and I went in for my 1 year checkup and just got chatting to the girls, and one thing fell into another, and then I'm now working there. So it's pretty, it's amazing. I'm obviously very passionate about this industry and this, the whole process. So it was pretty much my dream job. So I love seeing people come in from the very beginning and then, essentially to the very end of their journey, so to speak. So it's great.
Yeah, I guess that's right. You get to see them intermittently too. So if you're kind of seeing someone every day and there's weight loss, of course you're going to say, isn't that lovely? But if you see them every 6 months or every 3 months when it's, really falling off, it must be quite interesting to see their transformation.
There's people that walk through the door 6 months later and I don't even recognize them, because, they've dyed their hair, they've lost 40 plus kilos, and you're kind of like, oh, who are you here to see today? And you're like, oh, wow, okay, wow, like incredible.
That's amazing. And that's nice to see too, when people's personality starts to come out again, I think. And it's also what we're going to talk about today, I suppose, as the journey unfolds. But I see that so much, is that it really can help to re-spark that, person from inside. And it must be such a freeing experience. It doesn't come easily, but I'm sure it's certainly the freedom is pretty amazing as well.
I had a lady come in the other day, and she was a little bit older. She was probably in her late 50s, early 60s, and she was really quite anxious about the whole process, and she wasn't quite sure if she wanted to do it. And she came in for her, can't remember if it was a 6-month or a 12-month checkup, and she gave me a big hug, and she goes, I now sing when I'm walking down the grocery aisle. She's like, I've just got this massive personality that I didn't realize that I was holding back for so long. And it's those sorts of stories that you hear that you just kind of like, there's so much more to this journey than just weight loss. So
yeah, I think people enter it for varying things. It's health and weight loss, but there's so many kind of side benefits that are unexpected. We'll talk about that later too. So tell me a little bit about the start of your journey. What was it that made you decide to have the weight loss surgery in the first place?
Gosh, I was one of those people who, because it actually got recommended to me by an Italian doctor when I was working overseas. He told me that I'd be so beautiful if I just lost a bit of weight. And he wanted to write me an Italian referral to an Australian doctor. And this was back in 2015. And I was mortified. I thought it was the easy way out. I was like, I was insulted by it. I was like, I can't believe that's what you would think, blah, blah, blah. And then a few years later, I had a friend who had gone through it, and I'd watched her process, and I reached out to her because I had gotten to the point where, I was almost 130 kilos. And even though I was living my life, I wasn't living it properly. And I found that I was, turning down going and seeing my friends. I turned down being a bridesmaid because I didn't want to ruin people's photos. I just I portrayed that I was happy and that I had self-worth, but I wasn't within myself. And I found that I just, over the years, I slowly stopped doing things. And, I stopped wanting to go out with people and all that sort of thing. So it got to a point where I was like, something has to change. Something has to change. And so I eventually went and saw my doctor, and my original doctor refused to give me a referral, didn't believe in it, thought that, you know, all the stereotypes. So I went and saw a different doctor, and they were like, because I just wanted to speak to a surgeon and hear about it. It didn't mean that I was going in to have it done. I legit walked out that day being like, right, I'm getting it done. But I had to wait the 12 months for my health insurance to kick over. And for me personally, I think that was probably the best thing that could have happened to me, because I had to wait the 12 months, and I did a lot of research and I did a lot of learning, and I worked with a dietitian to get my head around what was coming, so to speak. So the surgery was a long time coming for me, but it was definitely, and it wasn't an easy decision to make, that's for sure.
Oh, I can't imagine. It's, you know, it is the end of the road. It's a lot of that kind of mulling over, and it's a huge decision to think, I'll go and take this step, either bypass or, you know, removal of 70% of your stomach. It's huge.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's interesting when you can. I think that 12-month period, it's almost like a gestation in some ways. And, you know, having been through a pregnancy many years ago, it's like, okay, that's happening. And then you get like 9 months to kind of go, oh, okay, it's happening. And then what are we going to do about it? And it's kind of a similar, it just gives you that time to think about and prepare, but also to learn and educate, which I think is one of the most powerful things you can do.
And anybody who thinks that it's the easy way out, they are so misguided by that, because it was definitely the hardest thing that I've ever done. So.
Yeah. And tell me about that day. What happened on the morning of your...
I wasn't nervous. I thought I would be nervous, and I thought, going to bed the night beforehand, I'd wake up and I'd be like, I wouldn't sleep. But I was so cool, calm and collected, because I kind of, in the back of my mind, I thought, it's somebody's job to do this to me. So I'm putting my faith in the fact that he knows what he's doing. I was second on the list for the day, and my surgeon had to come in and stop me from chatting with my anaesthetist, because we were just like, just so excited and chatting. For me, the recovery was really hard. I don't do well coming off anesthetics, and I just remember waking up. It was all smooth sailing, going under and everything. I was a bit anxious to actually go to sleep, but it happened so quickly. Like they tell you to count back from 10, and you get to like 8 and you're gone.
Yeah.
But yeah, waking up, I freaked out, and they had to bring me like air conditions, fans. They had to bring me ice packs, because I was just not in a good way. Not badly, but I overheat, and I was freaking out, and I was having like a panic attack, like for no reason really. I was just being a dramatic. But in hospital, that was the first couple of days were really hard. Like pain wise and stuff, I was fine. I was able to get up and walk around, which is what everybody told me to do. I made friends with the lady who went before me, and so she was staying at the other end of the ward. So every half an hour we'd walk to each other's room and say hello. And I just made friends in hospital. But my nausea was really bad. So every 4 hours on the dot, if I didn't have anti-nausea med, I would have the vomits. Like I wasn't actually vomiting, but I had the heaving, and I was like foaming at the mouth. And the last thing you want to do when you've just had an operation on your stomach is vomit. So that would
be quite scary to think I need to, but I can't. And I really shouldn't.
Yep. So I was like banging on the button for the nurse to be like, I'm like, it's coming. Like, help me, give me more drugs, which is something that I tell people all the time. Like,
take the drugs.
Take the drugs. Because the minute you leave hospital, you don't have any more drugs and you're on your own. So try and get as comfortable as you can in hospital. But apart from that, I had a pretty smooth run. Like, it wasn't too bad. I remember it being horrible, but I can't remember it being like deathly. So I guess, it is what it is.
Part of the process.
Yeah, exactly. It's a couple of days for the rest of your life. So
yeah, that's a good point. And did you have any complications at all, or was it quite, straightforward as far as things go?
The surgery itself was pretty straightforward. The doctor said that I had like a textbook surgery. My liver shrunk really nicely over pre-op, which I was really happy about. And I haven't really had any complications since. I did have my gallbladder removed in February of this year because I had pretty bad gallstones, which I thought was acid reflux, and I was stubborn and I never got it checked. Turns out it wasn't reflux, it was gallstones. So I did the Bribey try and the Malulabar try, and then 2 days after doing the Malulabar try, I was straight in hospital getting my gallbladder taken out.
Oh my goodness.
that recovery, I think, was harder than the sleeve recovery, to be honest.
Yeah.
It was harder, but it wasn't. Like, because I was fitter and healthier, I recovered a lot quicker. But the gas pain I actually experienced when everyone was talking about the gas pain then. So that was pretty horrible. But the only other complication I've had since surgery was, and anybody who follows me, I've been talking about it quite a bit because I think it's something that needs to be made aware of. Not aware of, but I think it's something that people should talk about more.
Yeah.
I am not ovulating at the moment. So I have been having a lot of issues with my fertility and all of that sort of thing. Prior to surgery, being morbidly obese, I thought I had polycystic ovaries. All of that has cleared up now, but I've been going and working with a gynecologist because my hormones aren't working properly.
Right.
And she said it's got a lot to do with rapid weight loss and excessive exercise.
Yeah.
So that's me to a T.
So yeah, it's working out which one is which, I suppose, with you, because you are incredibly active now.
Yeah.
And there's that thing called the female triad when you go on the other side where you're too low in everything and your hormones don't function very well. But also, I won't diagnose you on a podcast.
I know. I was like, oh, Jackie probably knows quite a bit about all of this.
Yeah, I think I talk about that in this first, like when the rapid weight loss is happening, a lot of women are in our groups going, oh my God, I'm so emotional. Oh my God, I'm, having really heavy periods or really strange kind of hormonal things are happening. And it's, your body is hanging on to estrogen. So fat is where you store excess estrogen from the environment and plastics and wherever. And obesity is often an overly estrogenic condition. So it's all in your body. And then basically you're just melting that away really quickly. So you get a massive influx of strange hormonal things happening.
Wow.
So it is something, yes, I think we should talk about more, and particularly because there's such a high risk of iron deficiency in the bariatric community and women, and then they come through the surgery and start heavily bleeding. They're just really heading, their iron levels can just plummet. So there you go.
I am iron deficient as well, so that doesn't help either. But I actually had a checkup with the gynecologist this week, and it's been about a month and a half since we've trying something new, and I am 50% better to where I was. So
that's good.
It's good. It's getting better, and there are chances of being able to produce and that sort of thing. Good. Again. So that's good. But I definitely think it is something that women shouldn't be afraid of talking about, because it is something that we all go through. So
and I think that's another point, is that a lot of people undertake the surgery to, reverse their type 2 diabetes and their polycystic ovarian syndrome, and all sorts of different great things happen from the surgery. But the nutritional implications and your absorption and your supplementation on a daily basis is what keeps your other health issues at bay. So some patients we talk to can find that they've done the surgery to get rid of a whole ream of, high blood pressure medication and all that sort of stuff from that kind of obese picture. Then they kind of lose the weight, and if they're not eating well and supporting themselves well enough, they'll have other health issues that are linked to nutritional deficiencies. So it's not that you get rid of everything, but you need to be careful that you don't end up managing just another range of health complications because you haven't looked after the things that need to be made up.
And you hear so many people have the weight loss surgery to try and help them fall pregnant, to try and get the weight off so that they can fall pregnant and stuff. So that's a really good point to make. Like, yes, you are losing the weight, but you've also got to make sure that you are sort of looking after the rest of it and everything else to make sure that your whole system is working well together.
Absolutely. Even cholesterol has a major part to do in hormone production. So if that gets too low, there's implications there. The podcast I did with Melanie McGrice on fertility and bariatric surgery is a really good one for people who are in that kind of group who are looking at losing the weight so their fertility is better. It's a good one to go.
One thing that I'm learning along this journey is that the body is a bloody amazing thing, and there's so much that goes on with it, that's for sure.
It's crazy. It is. And that's kind of what leads me to love my work, is that it's absolutely fascinating, how we're made up on a molecular level and what's needed for us to function well. I love it. I think we're just one big chemical reaction in a lot of ways, and we just have to make sure that all the little sparks are there and, this magnetic bit and that, ion. It's taken me on a journey.
So you see us as like a little, what are they, a molecular little calendar thing. And I'm just like, oh, that's a person. Whereas you're like, oh, they're all cells and things. Like, it's
You're
crazy.
like a little molecule and a few cells.
That was the word I was looking
and
for.
a couple of DNA strands. Yeah. But yes, absolutely. It helps you to look at humans from a totally different perspective.
Yeah.
And so with all your weight loss, you then started exercising and then you started exercising more. And so you enjoy running, you do triathlons, you've done half marathon. Am I missing anything else?
No, that's it. Half marathons, triathlons, running. My big goal for next year is to tackle the 50-kilometer run, the Black Oil 50. So I did the 21 and, concussed myself, but that wasn't enough to put me off. I want to try for the 50 next year. So
I read that it came up after we were talking the other day, and I found the post on the race you ran where you fell over and you were so dogged and committed that you face planted. Then you're like, I think I might have been out conscious for a bit. So then I kept running. I'm like, oh my God.
I was knocked out for about 20 minutes. Like
finished
I was
the race and then off to the hospital.
Yeah.
Incredible.
It was, a bit stupid maybe.
Awesome.
But when you're
still here, and that's the main thing.
I fell over at 18 and a half kilometers out of a 21 kilometer race. Like I just had to get myself to being able to, like I got up and I'd fall over, I'd get up, I'd fall over, and I just sat on the ground until I was able to. I ate food on the course and people were like giving me food and water, and I was just like, I have to finish. So I did it, and I actually finished it in quicker than I thought I would, and that was including knocking myself out. So
I was going to say, and you had a sleep.
Yeah, that's what everybody says. You had a sleep on the course for 20 minutes. That's not fair.
Is it a power nap when you're unconscious?
Yeah, that was it.
Wow. So tell me about, prior to your surgery, when you were, heading in that direction of becoming an obese human, where did this willpower that you have now come from? Like, this is an example of it, that you're really starting to stretch yourself and you've got this sort of really strong mindset. Is that something you always had, or is it something that's come out?
I've always been a stubborn person and a competitive person. So I don't know if that's sort of now turned into sort of like I'm still competitive, but it's more of a, for me, I like to prove to people that if I can do it, so can they. And I guess that's why we've sort of started up 5K Your Way as well, because people say that to us all the time. Like they're like, oh, you run, you do half marathons, you do triathlons, like you're so far out of the picture now. And it's like, well, no, like I legit started running by doing parkrun and I couldn't even run 5Ks. Like I asked my old personal trainer from when I was like before surgery, that asked us to do a 100-meter warm-up run. And I'd be like, no way. Like I would complain. Like I hated running with a passion. And I know that when Shannon first asked me to do parkrun with him, I was like, nah, it's the first thing that I've ever said no to, like at a drop of a hat. I was like, nah, parkrun, not doing it. And then he eventually convinced me to do it. And it was like a park run, park walk. And then it became a park. I can actually run 5Ks now. So I guess for me, I want to be the person that proves that you can do it regardless. So I guess it's just drive and determination now. Like even when I was overweight, I used to go to the gym. I used to go to boot camp 2 or 3 times a week. Like I've always had it there. I didn't necessarily love it, and I love it now.
Yeah.
But I used to do it because I knew I had to, and I wasn't getting the results. So that's why it stayed as being, I did it because I had to, whereas now I do it because I love it, and I can see improvement, and I can see like other people, trying things because they see me doing something, which I absolutely love. Like,
that's fascinating. Yeah.
It's amazing. I love this community for that. Like people reach out to me all the time and say, how did you get into running? How did you do this? Like, oh, I'm only running a kilometer at the moment. How can I go a little bit further or a little bit faster? Like, I love that. I love the fact that people are trying new things. And if I keep on doing it, then it means that other people might as well. So,
yeah, well, motivation builds motivation, doesn't it? I think. And if it's, you're the motivator in a lot of ways, but if people are coming to you saying you're motivating me, it's like another level to that. It's like, you must be very proud of yourself.
Well, I feel slack if I don't get out of bed and go for a run, because other people message me and went, oh, because you went for a run yesterday, I got out of bed and went for a run today. It's like, oh crap,
you're all accountable now.
Yeah, they're holding me all accountable for it. But also
fantastic.
if you surround yourself with people who are doing it as well, like, you know, Shannon and Amy, they're twice as crazy as what I am.
Yeah.
So I'm always aspiring to be like them. And so I guess, which sounds weird because I'm a runner now. I do triathlons and everything, but you can always reach for more and you can always better yourself. So that, I guess that's where I sort of come from. There's always room for improvement.
Yeah, that's great. And I think it is what you just said, is surrounding yourself with who you'd like to be. Do you know what I mean? And surrounding yourself with what you see is what you'd like in your life, and going out and finding it. And I think all the forums and all of the different groups that are available on Instagram and Facebook and that sort of stuff, it's a real platform for people sharing their inspirational stories and you know, some that you just would never think is possible when you look at what the health implications were beforehand. Not only that they were heavy, it's more that they were, you know, they had ailments as well. So it is something that really is life-changing, which is great. So tell me, what's been the hardest thing for you so far? How long ago did you have your surgery and what did you find has been the hardest thing?
So I had my surgery in April of 2018. So I'm almost 3 years post-op. The hardest thing, and the hardest thing is still the mental health side of things, and also my relationship with food. I think now more so than before, because I am getting back to almost a normal way of living, so to speak, because I am so far out, learning the relationship between food and alcohol and the small like habits that are creeping back in and learning the triggers. That for me has been really hard. Earlier on in the process, obviously, you know, not drinking and eating together and learning what things you can and can't eat and that sort of thing, like that was super hard as well. But now I find it's almost harder because I am just living my normal life now. And like I went for a run the other day. I did a 10K trail run and I was so thirsty because it was like humid and 36 degrees out. And all I wanted to do was come home and, you know, scull a liter of water. But then I couldn't because I can only have like 5 mouthfuls at a time. So then you spiral into this like dehydration, but you want water. And I mean, I kind of do it to myself because I could choose not to go for a run in the middle of the day, but it's just learning those little things and just, I don't even know where to start with the mental health side of things. Like it is such a battle with your own head and the body dysmorphia. Like I still go to the shops and I pick up a size 14 or 16, even though I'm clearly not that size anymore. Like you just forget, and fitting through tiny little spaces. Like today I was at the Bunnings car park and there was a car and a post, and in my brain I was like, you can't fit through there, but I can. Like, it's weird. It's so hard to explain to people who haven't been through it. So
it's an unconscious programming that your body, you're so used to, and I've spoken to other people about it in the past, is they're so used to, like they've integrated their size into their day. So if someone says, hey, do you want to go for coffee? They're like, well, I need to choose where it is because I need to know where I can sit and where I'm comfortable and where it's not too hot, or it's all these considerations that must take up so much headspace. But it would just be an automated habit. Have you explored that side of it with, you know, do you get professional intervention or how do you manage that kind of thing?
I did. So when probably at about 6 months out from surgery, I went and had a checkup with my psychologist, just to touch base. I didn't think that there was anything mentally going on. I thought I was coping pretty okay. But then all it took was sitting in a room with an actual professional, and it all just came out like word vomit because they're not judging you. That's what they're there for. Like, safe place. It was a safe place. And I just, it all just came, and I don't know what it is about psychologists, but every time I'm there, I just cry. I don't know what it is. So I went and saw her at 6 months. And then I kind of continued, every 4 to 6 weeks for probably about a good like 4 or 6 sessions. And just really sort of helped myself through for that sort of 6 to 12 month period. And now every single year I go and touch base with a psychologist, just to sort of see what my reaction is. Last time I went and saw her, I just had a good chat, got everything off my chest, didn't cry, which was good. And it kind of, and I was like, okay, so that's obviously sort of like a bit of a measurement to how I'm doing. So I don't go on a regular basis, but I make sure that I check in at least once or so a year, depending on how I'm going at that present time. And especially the year, it's been a tough year for everybody. So I was quite surprised that I didn't cry this year.
What an achievement.
Maybe next year.
And I think you're right. You don't necessarily know how much you're coping or you're hanging on to or keeping these balls all in the air, because let's face it, you turn life upside down. You have to learn how to eat well, not eat much, but eat well. And then if you become more athletic, and we've done a podcast on that just recently, the bariatric athlete, to meet your needs and to have such high demands is such a daily calculation and management. And it's good. It's all positive, but it's still something that you have to think about and, stack up every day.
It's funny
but
that
also,
you say. So I was going to say, it's funny that you say that now, because I actually use running as almost like a bit of a therapy session now too. Like there was a little while right in the middle of COVID where we weren't allowed to head out for too long and that sort of thing. And I didn't run for about a week, and I was moody and I was throwing tantrums and I was crying every night. Like I was like, I don't know what's wrong with me. And then it clicked that I hadn't been running. And for me, it's just at the end of the day, finishing work or waking up in the morning and just going for a run, you clear your head, you get everything, like you have time to, because it's just
when things kind of fall together as far as thoughts go.
Yeah.
It's nice when exercise becomes that positive outlet for, I always find it kind of reshuffles all my thoughts into the right place. And if I don't do it in the morning, the day never really
works properly.
Another broken day, no exercise. But you and your partner in crime, Shannon Taylor, who I've also done a podcast with, huge ambassadors for the whole community, and you're both organising events and doing your podcasting, and there's a range of things in the 5K Your Way. How do you juggle all of that outside of your day-to-day, everything else you're doing?
There's not enough hours in the day, I can tell you that much. At the moment, like as soon as I get off this podcast, I'm going to go back to like chopping out signs and stuff for the Christmas party that's coming up. But it's, I don't know, it's passion that drives me. I wake up at 4:00 in the morning every single morning, and I'm sending emails. I'm, doing the thumbnails for Barry Banter, writing questions for Barry Banter, emailing developers. Like my day starts about 4 or 5 hours before most people's days start. Wow. And I'm pretty much asleep on the couch by sort of 8:00 every night, unless we're doing something for, Barry Banter or something along those lines. But no, I just make time in the day. Like everybody says, oh, how do you have so much time? How do you do this? It's not that I have time, it's that I make time. And the passion that I have and that Shannon and I both have, it drives it. Like people say it all the time, like, why do you do this? And like I get as much out of it as what everybody else does. Like I am genuinely just so passionate about what we do. So it's almost fun.
Yeah. And I can see that in both of you, how, you're sharing your story and you're always doing something, different, or climbing some new mountain, or there's just a range of different experience, I think. And to see you sharing, but also you share what else is happening. Do you know what I mean? It's not like, aren't I incredible and I'm just climbing this mountain, but you both talk about the real side of it as well. So I think it's a really nice balance that it's not always fun and games and looking like but it's, and in social media world, you can certainly portray that really easily. Yep. But I think that's what I enjoy about both yours and Shannon's posts, is that, it's really well balanced, and it's something that people who are starting the journey anywhere along the way can see that these things are attainable.
Well, I guess that's where it all sort of started for me as well. Like I started my Instagram even before pre-op, and I documented everything from before pre-op, and like, the food that I was eating before surgery, the little changes that I was making and that sort of thing, because there just wasn't really that many people doing that. No. And I just really wanted to, and yes, okay, my Instagram 90% of the time is all like sunshines and rainbows and all that sort of thing. But then I do like to, if I'm having a crappy day, I tell people about it. And that's why we do Barry Banter too, and that's why we sit down and we just want people to tell their story as it is, because surgery isn't all sunshine and rainbows. Like there is a lot that goes on behind the scenes, and you'd be lying to yourself if you had the perfect run or that every day was magical, because it's not. So I guess that's where we just want to try and, well, I know that I just want to try and create a platform that people can actually relate to, and they don't just sort of, or they feel that they can be open and share and be honest. And
Yeah, and I think it's giving everyone an understanding. It's like the same process, but different for everybody. And I think that's one thing I really like to discuss is just how we get on Facebook and we see people saying, how much weight have you lost? And at this point, I've lost, I'm 6 weeks post-op and I've lost 10 kilograms. Is that enough? Or, and it is really easy to get caught up in comparing the same process to the different humans, but we all know our bodies are different. So, that one patient might have an issue where they're having difficulty with food, the others may have difficulty with relationships, or they're not, they don't have enough energy, or something's happening. But exactly. And I think with the Barry Banter, particularly because you're covering such a range of story, it really gives an insight into, what's amazing and what's not so easy, and also where to get help when you need it, I think, as well.
And I guess as well, like every single person goes into this weight loss journey for different reasons, whether or not it's because you want to fall pregnant, or if you've got diabetes and you want to get rid of it, or if you have grandkids and you just want to be able to go to the park with them. Like everybody has a completely different reason for doing it. Like, yes, weight loss is the end goal, but I can tell you right now that when I went into surgery, my end goal was not to be a triathlete. My end goal wasn't to be doing what I'm doing. It was purely to feel fit and healthy within myself. That didn't mean that I was going to start running. That was never on my bucket list of things to do. Like I hated running with a passion. It was just that I've grown and evolved, and you can never compare yourself to other people, no matter where you are on your journey, because like you don't know where you're going to end up in a week's time. So and that social media makes it so easy to compare yourself to other people, which sucks. And it's a great way to sort of, I guess, measure where you're at or where you want to be at, but we can never compare ourselves to anybody else, because you never know what's going on behind closed doors.
And that's exactly right. You get just a snippet here and there as well.
It is a highlight reel. At the end of the day, it is a highlight reel. And what you choose to highlight, whether it's good or bad, you're choosing what people want to see of you. So
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I can tell you're an expert in social media. Beautifully put.
So it's kind of my job as well, though.
What's next for you, Lita? What are you up to next?
Well, it's obvious that we're quite passionate about the whole community and weight loss surgery, and we're really trying to break down the stigma that comes around it. So obviously after the Christmas party, that once all that's done and dusted, we really want to try and get 5K Your Way up off the ground, and just continue on with Barry Banter. But for me, my big thing next year is training for the Black Hole 50. Yes. My big goal by 2022 is to do a half Ironman. So you're going to throw that one in there as well. I keep on pledging to all these people on Barry Banter that I'm going to do these crazy things with them, so it holds me accountable.
It's full accountability when you're out there talking about it, isn't it?
But then I also really want to, on a personal level, I'm looking into buying a van, and I want to live off the grid for a little while, as much as I can with everything that's going on. And I kind of want to accompany Shannon, because after COVID hopefully goes away for a little bit, he wants to actually do the full ride around Australia. Yes. So I want to deck my van out and accompany him for the first little bit for a couple of months, and then I'll come back and take over work and all that sort of thing, and maybe his parents can jump in my van and continue on sort of thing. So lots of plans next year and the year after.
Spring 2021. It's not far away, is it?
5 weeks or so. It's crazy.
Yeah. And I'm another year older between now and then too. So,
happy birthday.
Let's just skip over that as fast as we can.
Well, we've been saying that however old you are in 2020 doesn't actually count, because this year doesn't count. So like I turned 32 this year. Yeah. So I'm turning 32 in 2021 though.
Do it all again.
Just doing it all over. Yeah.
I saw that on Facebook. They said, I'm not counting this year. I didn't even use it.
Yeah, that's it. Or what are they saying as well? Can we actually have a preview of 2021 so we can ask for a refund?
It's not quite what we signed up for.
Yeah,
well, thank you so much for your time. I just have, you've just a beautiful personality and, inspiring everyone everywhere you go. And by the sound of it, making friends everywhere you go. So keep doing what you're doing, Lita. It's wonderful. And if we can support you along the way, we're always happy to do that.
You guys have been absolutely, honestly, I wouldn't be where I am today if it wasn't for you guys, not only the Maltese, but just getting behind us. And you guys are such a big part of this community. So thank you so much. And
it's lovely to hear
pleasure.
That. Yeah, thank you. And I'm sure we'll see you very shortly.
You will.
Thanks, Lita.
Thanks
for joining us.
See ya. Bye.
Thanks for listening, and just before you go, we would love to hear your feedback, so please give us a rating and review. For other interesting topics of conversation and inspiration, come and drop into our Facebook community at BN Bariatric. If you've enjoyed our podcast, we hope you will share on your Facebook or Instagram and hit subscribe so you'll never miss an episode.